Peace. This is Wise for Wise Words Media back at y'all for another round. And I just wanted to say real quick that it's interesting how when Terrence Crawford defeated Errol Spence, all you heard from the Errol Spence fans was nothing but excuses, a slew of them. You heard everything from Errol Spence was weight drained. He should have been at 154 already, or that his recent eye surgery had something to do with his defeat. Look, the proof is in the pudding. He just got eye surgery. So, Errol Spence recently came out and said that he wasn't giving his 100% to boxing. And that is why Terrence Crawford won. You see, boxing is not a sport that you play. Boxing is a science. It's an art and a science that you have to devote time and dedication to. And if you don't, you learn a hard lesson in real time, a painful one at that. And that's what happened in the case of Errol Spence versus Terrence Crawford, where Terrence Crawford was a man that wasn't playing. He wasn't playing boxing. He was devoted 120% to this art and science that he developed and loved and became a master at. And he wanted to maintain that mastery. And this is why he took on an opponent that at one point many people were saying that he was much bigger than Terrence Crawford, and that Terrence Crawford hasn't fought anybody, or that he's only fought Errol Spence leftovers. But what ended up happening was, you saw what happens when one man is completely devoted and dedicated to the art and science of this thing that we love so much called boxing, and when another man is halfway involved. You got one foot in, one foot out. And Errol Spence, when you started seeing him with the Charlo brothers, sauced up, you know what I'm saying? He was mad wet. My man was on fire in them interviews, drinking Henny, and you can't be sloppy like that and be at the top level. You know, everybody that gets sloppy drinking in boxing already got one foot out the door. It happened to all the greats like Julio Cesar Chavez, De La Hoya. The list goes on of fighters that, Tyson got himself, started getting stimulated outside the ring. And once you come back inside the ring and you're not 100% focused, you're not 100% the same guy. And that is the reason why Terrence Crawford won easily. Not saying that if Errol Spence was focused and dedicated that he would not have won. I still think Terrence Crawford beats Errol Spence in his best day. He warned Errol Spence 5 years ago. He tapped him in his belly remember that classic meetup that they had when Crawford had the Timbs on with the black sweater? The Timbs, man. If you from New York and you saw them Timbs, you already knew who was going to win. But anyway, and Errol Spence had the red hoodie on, and they were in the back, and they were talking, and they were going at each other. And Crawford's like, I called you. Spence was like, oh, you don't even have my number. And, they were going back and forth. That exchange in and of itself, Terrence Crawford tapped Errol Spence in the stomach. I was like, yo, you getting too heavy. He was telling us that man's not disciplined anymore. And then Errol Spence was like, oh, you too light in the AWS. And Terrence Crawford was like, nobody said Floyd was light in the AW, So he said, I don't want to hear. And Terrence Crawford told us this. Back then, go look it up. It's right here on YouTube. Look up Terrence Crawford, Errol Spence confrontation. Errol Spence said, I don't want to hear when I beat you that you were already supposed to leave 147. You were in the weight class too long. You were weight dry. I don't want to hear those excuses when I beat you. And sure enough, Errol Spence never said that excuse. But all the people that try to defend Errol has been using that excuse. But you can't use it anymore because Errol Spence himself just came out and said he was not focused and not dedicated to boxing. So you gotta stop and just give Terrence Crawford all praises due from this point forward. No excuses. I'll watch for Wadsworth Media. Peace.